Italy has had an election and in an historic turn appears to have elected their first female prime minister. However, the usual celebration by the usually feminist left when a woman smashes a glass ceiling was notably missing. Why? Because the newly elected Giorgia Meloni is conservative. Instead of celebrating her achievement, the left-wing mainstream media is screaming that she is a far-right fascist.
This year marks the 100th anniversary of Mussolini's historic march on Rome, plunging the country into 2 decades of dictatorship, an alliance with Hitler, and a Second World War. Today, his fascist party is gone, but many say she is carrying the torch. Giorgia Meloni, leader of the Brothers of Italy.
Let's bring in my fabulous panel. Joining me are 9 Radio's Michael McLaren and Radio 6PR executive producer Karalee Katsambanis. Great to have you with me, gang. Now, Karalee, this is an historic moment for Italy, you know, with them likely to see their first female prime minister. But look, right-wing woman breaks a glass ceiling, left-wing freaks out and insults her. Are you surprised?
Sadly not, Daisy, and good evening to you and good evening to everyone, and hello there, Michael. Look, it's really sad, isn't it? Because as you say, she is the first female Prime Minister of Italy, and we know that Italian politics has been quite explosive. I think they've had 67 governments since something like 1946. They've had an awful lot. But as you say, it's completely silent. And I noted today that, as you say, she's a conservative. She's not far right. She's actually described in Italy as centre-right. And a little touch of irony, her dad used to be a communist. And he sort of walked out on the family and, you know, she's rebuilt like we've seen in Sweden. Various political parties have worked out what hasn't happened. They've gone back and they've rebuilt. They've worked on their policies. But she has pledged to unite Italy and to govern for all, like we've often heard here in Australian politics that, you know, newly elected prime ministers have said, even if you didn't vote for me, we're going to govern for all Australians. Well, she's saying that she will govern for all Italians, and none of us are there in Italy at the moment. And so I think we need to give her a fair chance. She has a good sense of humour. She's conservative. She's for family values and protecting the borders and creating opportunities for Italy and also looking forward. But I must say, the silence is deafening, and I hope that the sisterhood around the world is sending a good card to her and adding her to the group WhatsApp, shall we?
Look, I highly doubt it, but you know, a girl can dream. Now look, Michael, to be fair, she actually faces a bit of a branding problem here, considering her party about 100 years ago kind of does have its roots tied to Mussolini. It's a similar branding problem that Marine Le Pen of Front National in France faces, given the sort of far-right roots of her party. But it's hardly fair to judge this lovely groundbreaking woman on something that her party was doing 100 years ago. I mean, shouldn't we give her a chance and let her govern before we start calling her a fascist?
Well, in the democratic process, sometimes you get the government you want and sometimes you don't. I mean, that's the nature of it. So, yes, she should be given the chance to govern. And it's interesting, fascist or not, it doesn't matter. When people get into power, they tend to just do what the public service tells them to do anyway. It doesn't matter if they're left or right. So it may be here nor there, actually, what water she drinks. As for Karalee's idea that the sisterhood might send her a card, I'd be having someone read it before I picked it out of the envelope. There could be something interesting in it. But look, I think I don't know too much about her. I know a little of her background, as Karalee's outlined, and she's quite right. I mean, Italy's political story is one of dysfunction more than success in the last 70 or so years. I think it's close to 70, I think was 67 governments in the last 70 years. I mean, it's just mad. And so, obviously, the correct parties haven't been delivering for the people and they've turned somewhere else. Now, there's a very strong similarity there with the way the Republican Party largely moved toward Trump. Again, a correct party was deemed to have let down its core constituency. And so they said, well, sod you and we'll find someone else. And they did. Whether you think he was good, I know you do, or bad, doesn't matter. That's what happened. And I think we saw that with Brexit. We're going to see that, no doubt, right around the world. As you said, it's happening to a degree in France with the National Front. So for all the finger-pointing, as the old minister at St John's Parramatta used to say, when you point the finger at someone, 3 point back at you. And the people that are saying, oh, she's a fascist, well, they should look at themselves, particularly if they're in the Italian establishment, and say, well, why aren't people voting for us anymore?